On this week's episode, this very special episode, we celebrate our podaversary.
Oh, I'm gonna cry. We talk about the origin story of this podcast from the very first little idea to now. We can't wait to share it with you. Stick around.
Woo!
Hello and welcome to Rare with Flair,
the podcast where two 20-somethings with the same rare disease have been living our best lives for the
For
past
a year. I can't believe it. I cannot believe it. Y'all.
I'm your host, Cassandra.
Oh, I forgot to say that we're the host. And I'm your host, Casey. Oh, I was so excited. I skipped our introductions of our own names. I just can't believe. I'm feeling so emotional, Cass.
It's so, special. Y'all, we're, very nostalgic, both of us.
Yes.
We really enjoy looking back and seeing how far we've come. So we just cannot wait to, do that this entire episode.
Yes. But before we get into that, have you been? Any updates for the listeners this week?
I do have an important update that I said I would update the pod. So, was it a month ago we released our driving episode, maybe?
Yes.
Sort of?
Yes,
Yeah.
about a month.
So we talk about, low vision driving, what that could be, bioptics, all that. And Case asked me, have you ever driven a car in an empty parking lot? It's like a blindy rite of passage,
It is
right?
a blindy rite of passage.
I can now say that I have driven a car thanks to my dad. It was after we recorded that episode. I went up to my dad and I'm like, please teach me how to drive a car.
Aww.
And he went through the whole process. He used his feet before we even got in the car to show me what the pedals were and how they worked. And then we got in the car and y'all, I did it. I'd made some U-turns.
Oh.
I was not too bad. I would occasionally push the gas pedal. I hardly ever used gas. It wasn't that big of a parking lot that we were in. I didn't want to crash into something. But I would call the gas vroom time. I was like, is it vroom time, Dad? And he's like, just a little.
You have officially reached that rite of passage, and I'm very happy for you. I think it's something all low vision people need to do. We need to all drive in our parking lots.
Fun. What have you been up to, though?
I have been reading so much, and I just have remembered how much I love it. We always joke about how I used to have a booktube channel. For those of you who have been around for a while, I had a booktube.
It was really good, you guys. Dig into the archives.
Dig in. No, I sometimes I just go a few months without reading and I forget how much I love it, and because it's a habit you have to keep up,
right.
And so, but once I start getting into it again, I'm like, why did I ever stop? So I love it. I love my Kindle. I literally am like a Kindle spokeswoman. I could go on and on about how great it is, but I won't do that right now.
What has been your favorite book that you've enjoyed so far?
So many. I just finished Jane of Lantern Hill by L.M. Montgomery, who wrote Anne of Green Gables. And it was really lovely. It's not in the Anne series. It's a different one. But there are so many. I could go on and on. But that was my most recent finish. I finished that today.
Ooh.
But I'm really wanting to get into this ep, Cass, with you. I have been excited about doing this episode for 5 months.
We've been excited to make this episode since we started this podcast.
Yeah. We literally talked about it when we started. We were like, we have to do a year in review episode after our year is up, and it's here. And so I, just like Cass said, we're really into dates and when things happened and nostalgia and looking back and timelining our lives kind of, and we both have that in common. So I'm really excited to look back. I'm excited to give you all some really cool behind the scenes tidbits you might not know. I think we have a lot of funny stories about the start of this pod. So let's get into it.
Yeah. So in anticipation for this episode, though, when all of this was happening last year, and we were conceiving this idea and trying to bring it to life, I was actually documenting almost all the steps that we took
Yes, no, I was so surprised, you guys. We were getting ready for this episode, and we usually write little outlines so we know what we're talking about. And Cassandra was like, oh, I documented this whole thing as it was happening of everything that happened to us. So I have the outline for us. And I was so happy. Like, she has it all. She remembered all of it. She wrote it all down. And so I could not wait. Oh, my gosh.
But it begins. Would you like to kick us off?
Sure, I'll kick us off. So, Cass and I met in 2014, as many of you know, and one of the ways our friendship started off, since we don't live near each other, is FaceTime, and more specifically, FaceTime rants. We would FaceTime each other for like 3 or 4 hours, and just kind of like, I mean, we weren't always like angry ranting, but we would kind of, since she's a person that understands what I'm going through, one of the only friends I have that really gets it, when I would finally get her on the phone, I'd start really going off about, oh, this is the way I'm treated when I use my cane, and this is this. And I remember having a roommate at one point who was just, I opened my door after a FaceTime with you, and she was dying laughing, and she was like, wow, you guys crack me up on FaceTime. Like, you really go at it. And that was kind of the first time I heard from another person's perspective how our conversations sound. You know what I mean? Like, it was almost like she was the first podcast listener.
That's so you know what, I think that, like, and this will come up as another theme later, but it was at one of the conferences. As a reminder, y'all, we have the same rare disease called Hermansky-Pudlak syndrome. We have lots of other episodes about that, but we met at the conference, and it was at one of the conferences. I don't even remember which one, because it feels like it's been so long since we've been to a conference at all. So I don't know if it was like 2018 or 19, but it was like Sunday, and we were sitting in a room, and you and I were like bantering back and forth.
I know exactly the memory you're talking about.
You know what? Yeah. And
yes.
Was your sister and your mom in the room or something? And they were like mesmerized.
Yeah. Yes. It was this room where all the luggage was kept, I think.
Yes!
And we were just sitting on the floor, like, going off. So basically, from the beginning of time, we have just really had this like banter back and forth about disability rights and all this kind of stuff. So that's how our friendship actually began.
But we would go like months and months and months without talking. And then we'd have one of these like super long FaceTime rants.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
Every few months, I would say.
Yes. Yes. We would like catch up each other on everything in our lives on that FaceTime call. And you must remember also that I have been making YouTube videos for about 12 years. So going into the next little part of this, during the pandemic, I asked Cassandra to come on my YouTube channel. I don't really remember.
Guest, guys.
Yeah, she was a guest. I don't really remember what even prompted that. I guess I just was like, hey, I'm bored and you're bored and let's make a video together. I really don't remember like the context of me asking you to do that, but she came on, we made a video together, and it went really well. And
it was fun.
You can tell the comment you read, because I know that comment like set something off in you.
Right. Well, so I read this comment, and it felt very specific. And it said, like, I could listen to you guys talk for like an hour. And it was like, that sounds like a podcast.
Yeah. We were like, oh, they could listen to us talk for an hour. Oh, okay. That was just like a funny comment. And I really liked the video, and I really liked, I mean, it was kind of more like interview style, like I was interviewing her.
Because it was her channel.
Right. But I liked talking to you, and I was like, we have something here. Like, we both really care about advocacy. We both really care about this. But I still wasn't really thinking podcast.
Yeah, so I feel like podcasts, which is really funny because, like, you know, we've had one for over a year now, but like so many millennials just start podcasts because they like to hear themselves talk. Yeah. And like I didn't want to be like that probably because I'm an annoying hipster, but I was like, I don't do that. That's so overdone, blah. And like my mom kept my mom kept telling me, like, you and Casey should have a podcast. But, like, I was like, whatever, Mom. Like,
No, same. Like, I had a really bad taste in my mouth about podcasts. And actually, the funny thing is, I'm an avid podcast listener. And I was back then, too. Like, I really loved them. But I had a bad taste in my mouth about starting one. They had this really negative connotation of everybody has a podcast. Every millennial with a microphone has a podcast. Yeah. And, I've always, and Cass, too, like, we've always been super passionate about disability advocacy and speaking out about these things. And I've been doing it since I was 16, and Cass had a blog and she was doing it. So it's not like we had something to say. It's not like we were just like, oh, I kind of just want to like talk about nothing. Like I had something I was already doing online. And the thing is, my YouTube videos were very sit down and talky anyway. Like I wasn't like doing things. I was mainly talking. So it's a very like audio medium in that sense anyway,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
But your mom.
But yeah, so my mom was the one who was bugging me about this. And, like, I don't know. I mean, there just kind of came a point, like, toward the end of last June. It was, like, June 28th. Of course I know. Don't ask.
Yes.
Like, and I, like, Casey was, like, feeling down for unrelated reasons.
I was having a bad day and Cass knew it.
Right. And so my mom kept bugging me about this podcast thing, and I like in an effort to both cheer her up, and I was like, yeah, you know what? Fine. To get my mom to stop bugging me. We'll see what she says. Maybe she doesn't even want to do it, but we'll see. And so I was like, hey, have you ever thought about doing a podcast? And so I just sent her a text. And then we just
sent me a text. Yes.
We just fired back and forth. And then she started sending her memos. And that's when I started sending memos, was because of Case.
Yes. I love the voice memo text.
Honestly, yeah.
When you texted me that, like, I thought to myself, oh, she's just saying this to cheer me up. But then I also thought, you know what? I had already thought of doing a podcast, and I had already thought of doing it with you, because there was no one else in my life I would have done it with, truly. And I had all these negative feelings towards podcasting, but I also like really wanted to at the same time. So when she asked, it was like my automatic, like, answer to the question of should I or shouldn't I.
Thanks, Mom.
Thank you, Sandra. You've met her mom in one of our episodes in the past, and now you know. So we decided pretty like straight away that it would be disability related, but also not fully disability, like lifestyle too.
Yeah, we had this FaceTime call that we both really, like, vividly remember.
I vividly remember this FaceTime call. And you have to remember, guys, this was during the, like, dead of the pandemic, like the dead center of the pandemic. Like, we were doing nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was working from home. I had been since March. And, like, I was in my old apartment, and it just, like, we had this, like, super, like, so invigorating FaceTime call where we were tossing ideas back and forth of topics we could talk about. And we wanted a disability podcast, but that we didn't feel boxed in, because, like, we're more exciting than just our disabilities. And, we want to talk about other things that we both enjoyed together, because we have similar interests and things that we care about.
Right.
That aren't necessarily disability related, but everything touches it, because it's like, a part of our lives, a part of our being. And so we knew that, like, that concept was super important, like disability lifestyle.
Yeah.
And so, like, we were really like, oh, but we gotta find a name to seal the deal.
Yes. And I must say, I'm so happy we had the same vision of this pod from the get-go. Like, we knew exactly what we wanted it to be, and we always saw eye to eye on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we never questioned it. Like, it was almost automatic.
No, it was. But we needed a name that would represent both disability and lifestyle. Ooh, what could it be? You have no idea. So this name was a mixture of choosing between me, Cassandra, and Cassandra's brother, Carlos. So big thanks to Carlos. Cass,
Yeah,
if
shout
you
out
don't
to
mind, I'll
Carlos.
explain each of
Go
our parts
ahead.
in the name because I kept the text messages and I looked back at them today to
Oh,
make sure.
phenomenal.
So Carlos was really helping us out. He steered us in the right direction. Before him, we had no direction. We were just throwing out random stuff. Carlos said, you need to keep it short and simple, like rare and blank is what so he had the word rare for us and he had the blank for us. So he pretty much laid it out. So then
Right.
I said, what about rare flair? And I was throwing out a lot of different ideas. And then Cassandra said, well, that sounds okay, but what about rare with flair? And there you go. There you go.
Yeah,
so
you
we
guys.
all three had a hand in it. And quite frankly, we're not trying to be like, arrogant here, but we quite frankly think it was a stroke of genius, this name.
Yeah. Well, and I think there's so many times where like when we create new episodes and we are deciding on like what should be called, and we keep thinking like, man, our show name is just perfect for us and for exactly what we wanted our show to be.
Yes.
And we feel like we have so much liberty in that we talk about disability things and blindness and things that pertain to us in our lives, but we can also talk about fun stuff like fashion and music and things that we love and enjoy.
Yes, if it were just a disability name, I think it would box us into disability things. And that's why I love it when we get to say, oh, this is the flair side of us, or this is the rare side of us. And it literally does both of those sides for us. And have I ever told you like that Buffy comparison? Of course, I'm going to talk about Buffy on this episode. But it reminds me of that where like the show creator was like, the name Buffy is a silly name, which shows it's a comedy. And then Vampire shows it has supernatural stuff. And then Slayer shows it has action. So it's like all of it in one name.
Yeah.
And because they wanted to just call it Slayer. And he was like, no, the name Buffy has to be in it to show that it's silly too. Anyway, I know I'm bringing Buffy into this when I shouldn't be, but
Buffy's
it just reminds
important.
me.
And I was also watching Buffy last summer when we started this podcast.
It just reminds me of that, how it's like, we have the rare, we have the flair, and any other name wouldn't have worked that well. And like, we're so happy.
No.
We even have like specific things on our website of like, these are the blind episodes, these are the lifestyle episode, and I'm so glad that they're all mixed together, but they can be separate as well. And I love that so much.
And I think it's really fun that we get to have a platform like this to do something like we just, it's not that we're the only podcast like this, because we know that we're not. And there are a lot of great disabled creators that you should all go and listen to. But, and we can link some of those in the show notes, which we'll end up talking about the show notes later on in this episode.
Yes.
But still, I think the fact that it's not exclusively advocacy makes it special, because we want people to know that being disabled is not just this linear experience where like this is all that you are and do and breathe and whatever. We still have personalities and we're fun and we're in our 20s and we
on our
enjoy
Instagram
stuff.
we say like to show the beauty and normalcy in disability, and so like that's what we're passionate about, is like showing what real disability looks like, not just a textbook version but like a real lived experience. And that's definitely something we care about. But I remember in that very first conversation with Cass, I said, I will do this podcast with you under two conditions. If A, we post regularly on a schedule, because that's really important, and B, if our microphones sound good. Because as a podcast listener, two things that bothered me. One of the things was like really, really grainy microphones and not being able to hear, especially if one of the hosts is like better than the other one as far as sound goes. I don't like that. And then also uploading on a schedule is super important, just as far as like keeping your listeners with you and not losing people and growing your audience and so on and so forth. So those are the two things that we really wanted from the beginning. And Cass was totally like, yes, absolutely. And I'm so happy to say that we did.
Thought that we were going to do this monthly. And if you listen to our intro episode, I think we even say that we are going to do this monthly.
Yeah.
And then we rescinded that almost immediately after it was released. And we'll get to that. But like, I was thinking like, it's hard to get statistics for podcasts, and I don't want to like toot our own horn, but like we do have like I think many more listeners than we would have ever expected. And we're really, 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 really grateful to everyone who listens to our show.
Yes.
Like, we don't make any money doing this. This is exclusively our passion project. But thank you so much for making our passion project feel heard.
Yeah.
And it's just fun. Thank you so much for listening.
Yeah, I'm really happy with the growth we've had over the last year. Like I hate to like feel like we're tooting our own horn too, but I will say, just since this is like a year wrap up, like we've also been mentioned in a few articles and things like that. And like that, like you have no idea how much that makes our day, like just to see that people actually hear us, because this podcast, we feel like we're speaking into a void sometimes. We feel like, is there anyone there? Hello? Because like you don't get a lot of feedback with a podcast really, except social media. There's no like comment section really. No. And so to hear that people are listening and shouting us out is like above and beyond what we ever expected. I told Cass, I was like, if we ever get mentioned in an article, that would like make my day. I didn't think it would happen within the first year, and I'm so grateful.
I thought just like maybe our like people that knew us would listen, but we have so many people that have found us through like so many different platforms, and it's just been really special to also get messages from some of you guys. Like, thanks a lot. Wow.
I would actually love to know if there's anyone listening that like just found our podcast, like not through any other like social medias or through anything else we've done. Like that would be kind of cool to know if you just like found us.
I did hear of someone I knew. It was someone I knew from an org. Her husband found us just because of similar podcasts he listened to. We got recommended to him.
Yes.
As through the algorithm. Who knew?
I do remember that. Now that's really cool. So yeah, that's awesome. If there's any more of you, we'd love to hear it.
Seriously. But yeah, so after we picked a name, we sort of charted our vision. We had to decide like what we were going to do, how we were going to record, on what.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
Where.
Oh gosh, I know. So luckily I had a little bit of experience with this from doing a little bit of voiceover stuff, like very mild. I'm not like a professional, but I did acting my whole life. So I already knew like Audacity was a really good recording software that is free. And I already had a microphone. So that was another thing that was like really a weird timing thing. Cause like I didn't know I'd be using this microphone for the podcast. I had bought it beforehand for voiceover stuff. So that was kind of just wild that I already had it sitting around.
Yeah, well, Case had it because she had bought a new microphone. She had an old microphone, and I thought I had something that was usable, but I didn't really have anything, and she was just like, "Oh, here's my old mic."
Yeah, I sent her my old mic
girl.
in the mail. Yeah, sure.
We also just had to figure out like how we were going to record since we were in different states.
Oh,
we had no idea like how that was going to work. And you know, I don't want to spoil too much of the magic.
Right.
But also this is on Google.
Well, I knew I didn't want to do like a Zoom or a Skype recording because it always makes one person sound grainy and the other person sounds good. And I hate that. Yeah, we had recorded on Skype for Casey's video that I was a part of. Yeah.
And it sort of had that effect.
Well, yeah, I think for an interview setting, too, it's more okay. Because it's like, oh, this is a guest who's, like, being patched in, like, you know, like, from somewhere else. But when it's a co-host situation and you're supposed to be, like, equals here, it just didn't feel right.
Right. So are we going to tell them how we do it? Or are we just going to leave that? I don't know.
Oh, I don't know. Well, I will say, I won't say exactly how we do it, but we both record on our own computers.
Yeah. So that's like the one thing that we do, and then we'll like send, you know, I'll send her my recording. Yeah. And then
so that's pretty much it.
She'll
actually
align them somehow special.
Yeah. There you go.
So then we were like, well, every podcast has intro music.
Oh my gosh, the intro music. Oh, that's a story. We wanted intro music that was royalty free. And after long and hard searches, that's actually really hard to find. I did end up paying just a little bit. It's not expensive or anything. But I think we like found a song and then decided against it for some reason. Is that what happened? Or like,
I don't even
I don't remember. We looked at a few different songs.
We scanned through so many different royalty-free sites, and
Yeah.
we had sent a few back and forth, but I think we were down to a couple, and then we ended up just deciding on the one that's been our intro music this whole time.
I sing it around my house. I literally sing it around my house.
No.
Cassandra told me once, she was like, when you speed up our podcast to have like 1.5 speed, our intro song's a bop.
Oh yeah, you guys, that's how I write the show notes. I listen to our episodes sped up.
Yeah.
And like seriously, every time it plays, I'm like
I will say though, even though this happened later, I will say the royalty-free Christmas music Cass found for our Christmas special still stands out of my mind as one of our greatest accomplishments we've ever had.
I was so proud of that find
I'm
because
so
it
proud of
sounded
it.
very similar to our actual intro music.
It sounded literally like our intro music turned Christmas. I don't know how you did it. Like, it's insane.
It was one of the first ones I found, TBH. Like, it wasn't that, it was like, I didn't search that hard.
Like, I want to use it again this December at some point if we can.
Yeah, I'll be on the lookout, honestly. Like, I can't wait.
I love it. I love it so much. Oh my gosh. But anyway, then we were like, every good podcast, actually every podcast in general, needs cover art. And I think we
wanted it to be cute.
Yeah, I think we knew pretty immediately we didn't want like a photograph of us. Like we both kind of agreed pretty quickly we wanted like a cartoon version of us, which is like honestly a dream to be a cartoon. Like, how fun is that?
Right?
I love that. It was kind of your idea though, I feel like, maybe.
So I had seen a lot, like, I had seen some artists, some people were getting into digital art through the pandemic, and they were posting their art online. And I thought the idea of us being just kind of digital art without too many details would be really cute.
Yes.
And, like, fun, and I feel like it adds to the sort of upbeat nature of what we want our podcast to be. So I asked a girl that I knew, but she was really busy at the time. But we waited to see if she would, come back with a commission rate. And like we were doing other stuff at the same time, but I think we deciding on what the artwork would look like was like more of a process. And so we were like, oh, do we want to be like just our faces? Do we want to be standing? But then we wanted our like Kane and we wanted Romana because it felt, fit the blindness part of us. And so,
yeah.
I mean, I feel like this is like slightly later on, but our cover artwork for this episode, like that was the photos that we used. We literally went outside and took these specific photos. I literally put on makeup and a dress just for this photo.
Yes. So yeah, what she's referring to is if you go on Instagram, like we always put up a photo for each episode, and we are going to put up the photo that was the inspiration for like the actual photos of us. Because what we did was Cass took a picture of herself. I got a picture taken of me, and then we like edited them back to back, like because we knew we wanted to be standing back to back. And I remember really wanting like the Cane and the guide dog in it because like our title isn't specifically blind related, and I wanted people to know that that was a big aspect of it. And Cass was the one who came up with like doing our faces without a lot of detail. Like it's just like our mouths and our sunglasses, which I think the sunglasses is so perfect for us, obviously, like with albinism. And so yeah, I think like the girl you were gonna ask was like busy for a few months, and we were itching to get the podcast out sooner than that. And
right.
So
and as a reminder, at this point it's like I would say like early July of last year.
Yes, I think, like, I don't want to spoil any, like, jump too far ahead, but I think it did take us, like, a full month, and we were working, like, every single day on the podcast. Yeah. Like, yeah, I remember it was a lot of work.
We did a lot of pre-work for this.
It was a lot of prep work, like, a lot more than we ever imagined, but, like, it was fun because during the pandemic, we were, like, sitting around twiddling our thumbs, and so it was like fun to have a project to work on. But anyway, so I was scrolling through Instagram one day. I found a girl I follow who was doing very similar digital art to the girl Cassandra had wanted. And so I messaged her, Sarah Sinclair Art, on Instagram. We will link her again. We've linked her in the show notes quite a few times, but we'll link her again. She did our cover art. We're really grateful. And we really took forever tweaking it, though. I remember, like, it was like our shoes weren't the right color, and our hair, and like Cass's hair was purple in the picture, but we wanted it blonde in the cover art, and we wanted all this different tweaking, and like the background color, and we needed a circular version and a square version, and like all this stuff.
We were like too far away from each other, but then we were too close, and like
Yes, and luckily Sarah really worked with us, and she was very patient with us every time we wanted to change something. And I'm still really happy with how it came out. And I always said, I want to see this on a t-shirt, and then we did it.
You guys, we did it. Wow, I can't believe that was like, wow, that was almost 6 months ago.
Oh my gosh, stop. Oh my gosh.
So wild. So that was so exciting, and like we were super motivated when we had cover artwork, and like we knew we both had the same agreement. It really worked together. We were pretty much in agreement about almost everything and the whole vision we wanted for our podcast. We wanted this to be like as professional as possible. Yeah. While still being like a fun show. We wanted to have everything ready and in line. So we were like, well, you know, I got a degree in software engineering, so it was like, well, let's make a website. I can make a website. Yes. And so I started from scratch, and like I worked really hard. I remember like around the 4th of July, like I think I started, and I was like, I picked like a whole color scheme because I wanted the colors to be like fun and cute and, you know, representative of us. So we picked our bubblegum pink. Yes. And our like Tiffany bluish, and then we had like this. We also have the light yellow.
And our Instagram still, if you go on our Instagram, we still use those 3 colors all the time. We love them.
And like, so I was really excited to, you know, define that, and I picked like some background colors, like some cute flowers, and so I worked really hard on this website. It's not the website that you'll see. Yeah, there are reasons for that.
Yes. Oh, yes.
I was really happy to like still just create something really special, and I would send Casey like daily updates on my progress, and it was like a lot of fun.
It was so exciting to see. Like, I don't even know where to begin with like building a website. I am not like very good at that at all, and like we will get into this time and time again of how our talents really, really complement each other, because I have a lot of editing experience, and Cass has a lot of experience with like websites, and it just like, it's crazy how like where I fall short, you pick up, and vice versa. It's really like an amazing partnership. And like, we didn't know from the beginning like how we would be working together. Like, it kind of worried me a little bit. Like, they say like don't work with your friends or don't live with your friends and all this kind of stuff, you know, and like,
I know, I was worried too.
Yeah, I had no idea like what you'd be like. And so, I mean, I knew you, but I mean,
we were close. Like, we shared like intimate things with each other before, but we didn't have like I don't know, we didn't communicate regularly enough to really feel like BFFs. Like, you know.
Yes, I mean, I think from the day you asked me to do the podcast, I don't think there's been like a day we haven't spoken since that day.
Yeah, and even if it's just a quick text, you know, we've gotten a lot busier as like things have opened back up this year, but still, like, we always like find time to catch each other up on like what we've been doing, and like just funny random stuff from like throughout the day, and like it's just so like fun and special to have someone like that in your life, to be able to like, you know, back and forth, just like, I saw a pretty flower.
Like the most random, like, here's my journey to the grocery store story, and like just random.
Oh my gosh,
like
I send her those constantly, you guys. Every time I ride the bus.
Yes, all the time. Every time she rides the bus, she's like, here's my story from the bus. But like, I think in this first month of gearing up for the podcast, though, we were talking like all day, every day. Like, it was, I just have memories of it being non-stop work. Like, and not like in a way that's bad, but it was like non-stop. Like, we would spend hours and hours like researching things. And so anyway, yes, you built the whole podcast. I mean, you built the whole website. It was beautiful.
I had a whole framework set out, and so I wanted to, I was going to look for something to be able to basically make it a blog format, but with audio. But I jumped into this without fully knowing what actually we needed for a podcast. Like,
neither of us knew.
Completely honest,
neither of us had any idea how podcasting worked, and we still don't quite understand some of it.
It feels like a mystery.
It's a very big mystery. Like, you have no idea. It's so different than any other platform.
It's strange because it's hard to find information about it. It feels sometimes like.
Ugh. It's like
you
a
have
secret
to do
society.
a decent amount of digging.
Yes.
It's not just like, I made a YouTube account and now I clicked upload and then here you go.
Right. No. It is not you doing anything pretty much. I remember like calling you up one day and being like, hey, Cass, I think we have to have someone like a company host our podcast. Like, we can't just do this ourselves. And you were like, say what?
I remember like being in my room when you were telling me that, or like my room at my parents' house, and I was like, what? And like, we had no clue.
We had no clue, and I was doing all this Googling, and I was just getting more and more confused the more I was Googling things. And then you took the reins. You were like, okay, hold up. I'm going to look into this.
So basically, for those that most people wouldn't know this, and obviously we clearly didn't, when you have a podcast, you have to have a podcast host or a podcast provider. So what that means is that you have this company that basically you pay every month. Usually it's around like $10 for a certain amount of space where they will host your media files, because I thought we could do it ourselves. But one, I didn't want to build a server, and I also, audio files are really big, and like there would be a certain amount of those that we could have, and it was just really convoluted. Besides, like, we need something called an RSS feed. To not get into the weeds about how that works, basically it is what tells Apple and Spotify and everything that we have a new episode. And that's what we give like these listening platforms so that we could get our show up there. We give them our RSS feed. So we needed all of those things, and frankly, I didn't know how to create them. And given the amount of time we wanted to put this show out, like, we needed to do like, basically purchase it. So we looked into a couple, and Case found one that she had heard of.
Yes. Are we going to say the name?
Well, I don't want to blast them.
Yeah.
But they didn't work out for us.
We found one. We were all happy. I think we even made an account with them and everything.
Yeah, I purchased like a year's worth of storage, I think.
Yep. And then we realized quickly, you could tell that part.
Right. So they offered to be able to give you a website. And I was like, great, we don't have to do that ourselves. And so I started trying to change that and play with it, and it was like very, very, very limited for what I wanted the website to look like, and I was really, really mad.
Yeah, and after making, she had already made this whole beautiful website with all these colors and themes and fonts and all this stuff, and to not be able to use any of that, you had already had that vision, so you were like, this is not going to work, we have to still have our vision. So
I literally called them to cancel. I was like, please refund me my money. Yep. I do not want to do this.
Oh, I remember being a little stressed about that, because I was like, oh no, what if they don't refund? This is going down the tubes. What's going to happen? It was crazy, guys. At the beginning.
Wild.
It was wild stuff. It was.
And so that was a good learning experience, though, because then we were like, oh, let's start over. Let's see what we actually need. And for me, I just decided to not overcomplicate things, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna go with something that I know. So I went with WordPress.org, not the same as WordPress.com where you have to pay for stuff. WordPress.org is free and open source, and you still get pretty much all the access that you do in WordPress.com, but you have to do a little bit more legwork. And I found this really, 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 really helpful article that I will link in the show notes if anyone is interested in having a website or starting a podcast, but they don't want to do a ton of legwork. This was sort of the way to do it. I started on WordPress.org, and then I went with a provider that would be able to allow me to use my site on wordpress.org and still host and like let me do my thing, but like, you know, basically let me and my site be more autonomous and not like have to have the site like through the provider, if that makes any sense at all.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I bet some people are still lost because quite frankly, we are sometimes still lost.
It's real confusing.
Yeah, and we told each other multiple times, if it weren't for you, like, and like me saying it to her and her saying it to me, like if it weren't for each other, we would have given up on this a week or two ago. Like,
oh yeah,
we couldn't have done it by ourselves. Like, we really couldn't. And like, please, like, note that we have not even recorded the episode or edited the episode yet at this point in time. Like, we were doing so much of this legwork up front, not even knowing if we'd be any good at podcasting at all. And I was worried about that because we saved our recording till the very end. And I remember being worried, like, well, after doing all this work and all this cover art and everything, like, I hope that we actually are okay at this because, yeah, we gotta be.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I know. So yeah, I finally redesigned our website on WordPress, and we bought a domain and some web space, because you also have to buy web space. The provider we ended up going with is, we call it Blubbery because it's spelled like BLUBRRY, but it is actually, I think, Blueberry.
I always... No, I thought it was Blubbery. Well, it's spelled Blubbery. It's called Blueberry. It's spelled Blubbery.
It's spelled Blubbery, but like their logo is like it looks like a blueberry.
Oh, okay. I like blueberries. I'm fine with that. Anyway.
I thought I told you that.
No, I thought you were calling it Blueberry as a joke this whole time. Like, I thought the real name was Blubbery and you were joking. I was mixed up because, like, the real one...
Blubbery is the joke name.
Yeah, I thought Blueberry was the joke name, but Blubbery's the joke name.
So I wanted to do this at the beginning of the episode, but this may be a good point to point out that, like, we very much have, like Case mentioned earlier, we play to each other's strengths. So, like, Case is really good at editing, and I take care of a lot of the web stuff, more behind the scenes. And so I feel like, you know, we have, like, titles for ourselves. Like, Case is, like, the chief editor, and I'm the webmaster.
Yes, and then I'm also social media mostly, and you're show notes.
Yeah, so I'm like the writer, and you're like the social media, like, presence, I guess. Like,
mostly, you do some of it too. I make all the posts, but you'll like respond to comments and make stories sometimes. So like, it's not like it's just me.
Yeah.
But yeah, we do have our own little titles. You're the one who posts the episodes. Like, she's the one who puts the episode into the RSS feed and makes it go on all the platforms. I have no idea how to do it. One time we were having some trouble, and I was like, I can't help you there. And then, yeah, I edit. So we really do kind of like have our own little jobs here.
I also am in charge of like the billing. So like most of the accounts are in my name, but like we all sort it out in the end.
Yes, exactly. So...
But that's also what, I don't want anyone to think that Case not knowing the name of our host is anything against her. It's because I basically take care of it. So like.
Right, exactly. So yeah, we did meet and we tested out our audio for the first time. It went well. I remember being very happy with that. I mean, we literally talked for like 2 minutes, I think, or something.
Yeah.
And then we mapped out episode 1. And I remember like the week right before we recorded, it was a very specific week where I was in this cabin in the middle of the woods. I feel like I talk about it all the time because it was like a very like visceral moment in 2020 for me of being secluded in this cabin. And I remember like just memoing you back and forth so much and getting so excited to get home and record.
I was off the same week too, though. So like I took a staycation.
Yes.
And I was like, well, I guess I got to use these vacation days. And I've been working pretty straight on for a while. So, like, I was, you know, chilling with my parents and I was taking this week off. So we were both, like, not doing anything this week. We were just on vacation. And, like,
yes,
we were, like, we had planned this episode before we had gone on vacation, specifically Case, just because like she was like literally out of town and we couldn't record then. But it was really exciting. We were just really like raring to go, and like
yes, we were like talking about like
excitement.
Oh, like we're gonna share this on social media on this day, and like I was showing my dad our website because our website wasn't live yet, but we could see it. I was showing it to my dad on that trip, and I just like for some reason I have like really vivid memories of that being like the calm before the storm of releasing the podcast into the world, you know, and it was very exciting.
Yeah, and that whole process was such a whirlwind, but yeah. So when she finally got back, we recorded our first episode, and we were like a little nervous, like we'd never done this.
I was very nervous. I was like shaking. Like I was like the kind of nervous you would be if you were like going on stage. Like I was
I was
really
too.
nervous. Really, like right now I feel like so chill. It's not even funny. So it's funny how that has changed. But like, yeah, I was so nervous. We recorded the whole thing, and then
we were super happy about it.
And then all hell broke loose because
then Casey called me.
Then I called her and I said, so I have this nice microphone that I'm recording with, and you know, like we've talked about before, we wanted the audio to be really good. And I realized that my software, Audacity, was using my computer microphone, which, you know, is the microphone that just comes with your computer that you would use if you're like FaceTiming someone, you know? And I was like, oh no. And so I tried to get my microphone to read, my nice microphone to read, and my computer was not picking it up at all. I tried everything. And I said, Cass, please stand by. We've got to re-record this whole episode. And I don't know when.
We spent legit 2 hours on the phone.
2 hours on the phone. I was sweating. I was like so upset. You know, like that frustration you feel when like technically something is not working, like technology is not working. Like it is just the most frustrating thing. So then I was Googling everything. I was trying everything. And at my wit's end, I went on a Facebook group for voiceover actors because they all use all these microphones. And I made a post in this group and like praise the Lord. Seriously, like praise God, because I was praying. You know, I was praying during this. Someone answered and had the answer for me. And like actually people were giving me like 5 different answers, and I just like did all of them, I think. Finally got it, re-recorded. I remember we were like exhausted after that.
This was all one day.
This was all one
Sunday.
Yes, and it was like we had to do it that day for some reason. We like wanted to get it.
I think I was going back to Columbus, and I wasn't gonna take my mic or something. Like I don't know,
but we had to do it that day, and it was just like after working for 2 hours to get the mic to work.
And we had already previously recorded the episode that same day.
Yep. So that was a big fail. And trust me, within this whole year of recording, we have had more fails than we can count on both hands. Like, I'm telling you, it's actually more rare that an episode goes perfectly than it doesn't. Like, when I'm editing and it's correct, it's like a shock.
We will not tell you which episode. But there was an episode where it was like our fault that it went wrong. That we were just exhausted and in just the weirdest headspace. I
had no idea.
I will not tell you which episode this was.
I had no idea what you were even talking about. Yeah, we were like... Okay, there have been a lot of technical difficulties, but this one episode was just us being like off. Like we just weren't good.
We were nuts, you guys.
And I remember Cass was like you were like really dejected at the end of it. You were like, I hated how that went. Like,
I was like, this episode was garbage.
I was really pumping her up. I was like, no, it was good. Like it was good. I'll just edit it. It was fine. And then I go home to edit it. I was like, no, you're right. This is trash. We got to throw it out in the trash. This is trash. And we redid it. We're very happy with the redo. And we're not going to... We'd rather not tell you that we redid an episode because I feel like that takes away the magic. But we rarely ever do that. We rarely redo. Usually when there's a technical error, I try to use my editing magic to get around it. But...
Case has, like, edited us around some binds.
I've edited us around some binds. But speaking of editing... The first episode, which was only 30 minutes long, by the way, it was like a half episode, our intro episode. The first episode took me around 10 hours to edit the whole thing. I am not kidding. I actually had to like scrap it and start over. It got that bad because I've video edited like my whole life. I have never audio edited in my life. It's really hard. And nowadays it's easier. But back then, like and you can tell the first like 3 episodes are kind of choppy and like they're not my favorite editing style. But I didn't know what I was doing back then.
You can't tell, Case. The average listener probably can't tell.
No, it's true. The average listener can't tell, but I think we are so like nitpicky about things that we like listen in. But I'm so happy in the past year that I have gotten it. Now it takes me probably about like 4 hours total because it's an hour long of recording. So it's going to take over an hour. Like it takes just an hour to listen to the thing, you know, but it's gotten like so much better. So I'm very, very happy for that.
Right. I know. Case is like such a masterful editor though. Like,
oh, you the sweetest.
No, she's so good. But yeah, I feel like
I enjoy it. I really do enjoy it.
Some of our favorite technical errors, I think my demon voice was probably up there. There was one point where, my microphone got corrupted or something. We have no idea what happened.
There was one time where my editing just would cut out in random, my voice would just cut out in random spots. There's been one time where you were super quiet. We had to re-record half of an episode for one time. Oh my gosh, it's been crazy. I mean, I'm telling you, just the things that have happened. It's like if we have a good show, we're happy about it. But anyway, so then you were like finally excited.
Finished, I was stoked, and
you were excited to write these notes.
I was really excited. So this is what the whole website was going to be mostly for. It was for the notes of the show, and the show notes is where, like, for those that have like heard us reference it but have never bothered to check it out, yes, I'm talking about you.
Whoa.
we know that not many people actually dig into the show notes, but like I wanted it just mostly for posterity. Like sometimes, you know, we're never sponsored by a brand, but like sometimes even if you just hear a podcast, you're like, oh, what was that thing that they talked about? Well, that's like why we have the show notes. And, you know, if we ever mention statistics, like we don't want to just sound like we're making stuff up out here. Like, I find that that's super important, and I knew that was something that I wanted to incorporate, and I've seen that incorporated on like some bigger podcasts, but like I really wanted that to happen for our little show. And so I was super excited. I listened to this episode. I remember I was cooking and I was like, wow, like it's like really happening.
Yeah. Like I remember like hearing it for the first time too, and it like sounded weird to hear your voice like that, and like it was just so cool. And the show notes though, I listened to some like she said, like bigger podcasts with like that make money and like have a lot of listeners who do it. And it is one of those just extra things that I think makes our show more professional. And that's what we were really, really going for. And like, I love being able to reference it. I love being able to say, we'll put it in the show notes. Like it just sounds like we care, and we do care. And that's why we want to do it. Like we want people to like go be able to look up the products or the pictures or the articles or whatever that we talk about. And so I'm really grateful for Cass for putting in that extra time. And you know what else I'm really grateful for is that you've done it from the start. Like I know some podcasts who start show notes at like episode 40, and like that's fine, but like it's really cool to like have one for every single episode we've ever done and have that backlog, because that's the memories. Like we can go back on that anytime and look at each episode. And like I like that we have a photo for each episode. Like our photo is on our Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, but it's also on the show notes. And so it's just like it really like makes each episode like stand out in my mind and compartmentalize them as what they are.
Right. And for those who don't know, it's rarewithflair.com/podcasts. Like you can see all of the episodes that we've ever released. And like, I have a lot of fun with it. Like, I think it's a blast. I usually write like a quick blurb at the beginning of each.
I love your blurbs. It says, hi, hello, hi. Hey, hello, hi. I love the blurb.
Yeah, so it's fun, and we're glad that we can like just put in that extra effort and make it special. But yeah, you guys, if you haven't checked out some of the show notes, like we put some fun pics in there occasionally.
We do. I think you should definitely check them out. And also, I made all the socials around that time. I made the Insta, the Facebook, the Twitter. I just thought it was important I think since you can't like comment on a podcast unless you're reviewing, you can't like actually have a comment section. I thought it was important to have social media to remind people when the episodes were coming out, to interact with people. So we did that, and then...
So in the meantime, like, we were pretty much ready to go. I had written the notes.
And this was the end of July.
Had the socials ready.
Yeah.
And so I had heard from my reading on podcasts that, like, when you want to start putting it on Apple, which is, I feel like, one of the more major podcasting platforms, not on Spotify, but Apple's usually, like, kind of the milestone marker that you officially have a podcast. And so, you have to submit it for approval. You know, they don't want just, like, a bunch of random, possibly spammy people posting like all kinds of random spammy content. So they want to be sure that your show is legit, that, you know, you are, you know, actually, you know, making a show. And so I read that it could take about like a week. And we were like, okay. So we had originally planned to release like the first week of August, the first Tuesday in August.
Yeah, we had picked Tuesday as our day. So we just
thought Tuesday was a good day. We wanted people to be able to listen on their commutes if they wanted to. Like, you know, it felt like a good weekday listen.
Yes.
So I submit to Apple, and y'all, we posted a little teaser on our social medias. We got a lot of our friends to follow.
Yes.
Within 24 hours, I got an email that we had been approved and our show was officially live. And I was like, oh my gosh, wait, it's live? And so, like, it was up, and we were like, oh my gosh, our show is live. Like, it was so...
And I remember I was with my mom, and we were pulling into my sister's house to help babysit the kids. And I, like, my nephews, her kids. And I was like, oh no, the show's out. Like, we got to get this up. We got to go. Because we didn't want our show just sitting there for days with no one listening, or it would look like, you know, like no one was listening. So we were like, we've got to get this out on the socials right now. And I was like, bye kids, like ran in the door and like pushed my nephews aside. I was like, I gotta get upstairs. I gotta hold on. And I was like, I need a minute, like, alone. I gotta get this going. And I remember calling Cass, and you were kind of like that too. You were like, hold on. I gotta make a lake tree. I gotta get my ducks in a row. Like, hold on. And so we were like, okay. I was like shaking. I was so excited to release it. I was so scared. Stoked. I was so scared to release it. Like, I didn't know what people would think. Like, because we were like sharing it with our friends too, like on our socials. And we were like scared and excited. And oh my gosh, all the feelings. It was wild. It was so
special.
It was special.
But like July 29th was our day. It was like, that is the day that like Rare with Flair was officially born. And
July 29th.
Since then, we've like posted it on other mediums and platforms, and, you know, all of that. And it's been like really, really fun and exciting to watch this whole thing grow. After our special surprise drop, and after like the reception, after probably the first couple days, we came to this consensus that, like, you know, we're not doing anything right now. What if I just did this every other week instead of doing this monthly?
Yeah, because monthly, I was like talking to Cass, I was like, that would only be 12 episodes a year. And that's really not that much when you think about it, you know? And
right.
So I think bi-weekly has been so good for us. I think if it were weekly, that would be stressful for us. And some people do it and it's great, but we think bi-weekly is so great. And that's why we've been able to stick to a schedule. I'm so proud of us. We've never skipped an upload. And I think that's why we've been able to stick to a schedule, is because it's bi-weekly and it's not stressful on us. Like, we have a lot of time where we're not even like dealing with the pod. It's not like we have to work on it every day or anything. Like, we have like almost like a week and a half that goes by. Really, it's only a few days every 2 weeks that we're like actually working on it. So now we've really gotten into a rhythm. It's nothing like the amount of work at the beginning of putting it out. Like, now we're in a rhythm and it's really great. Oh no, I'm losing you. See, this happens. This is another thing that happens. Oh no. Oh, there you are.
My phone died.
Oh no! her phone died, everyone. I was telling them that this is another thing that happens with us is we lose each other on FaceTime. So that's another fun.
This one was my fault.
Well, no, that's okay. But anyway, I was saying like it's nothing like the amount of work we did at the beginning. It's like,
oh, not at all.
It's not even
it feels
like
so much more worth it that we did put that much legwork into it.
Oh, I agree. It made it so worth it. And now it's like a well-oiled machine. Like we know what we're doing and we do it, and you do your work and I do mine, and we have a fun time coming up with the titles, and we still have a great time, and we really like have the same artistic vision, and her strengths are my weaknesses, and so on and so forth. And I mean, not to be mushy, but I think my favorite part of it all has been getting to be way closer with you as a friend. I mean, if we truly though,
same though,
like if we hadn't done this, we would not be where we are right now, like friend wise.
No.
And that's really,
no.
I mean, I still considered you like a sister. Like you understood me in a way that nobody else could.
Right.
But nothing like we are now. So it's like so awesome.
No, I know. Casey's like the first person I want to tell about like fun and exciting things that happen in my life.
No, same. No, literally same. You're one of the very first people I go to now. So
it's just like, it's just been like really, like we've had like so many like heart to hearts. We have like constant mush fests about how we just love, like this whole podcast is like a stutters.
I really could cry.
Friendship.
You're gonna make me cry. I really could cry right now. I'm not kidding. Cause like
I don't like. We would still be friends without the podcast, but I don't really know what our friendship would be like without it.
I mean, it would probably be the same as it was before, which was not bad by any means. Like,
no.
You know, like I said, we still had like deep conversations and told each other a lot of deep things. Like we were very close, but nothing like we are now. So like, I just can't believe it's been a year. I get really sappy with like anniversaries.
Wow.
Like,
I
just
know.
can't believe it. And we've been through so much together. Like, our lives were so different. Like, when we started this, we were, like, at rock bottom in this pandemic, and we had nothing really going for us. And this podcast, like, drew us out of that dark time, and it gave us something to do, and it gave us a hobby. And now our lives are going really well right now. Like, both of us are doing really well. We are quite literally living our best lives, as we say in the intro. And you know, there will be bad times again and good times again, as is life. But, like, just to see where we were then and where we are now, and what so much can happen in a year, and the pod has been like a stable part of that. Like, it's like a constant in our life, you know?
And I think of 2020 and I think of the podcast, and it like so makes me happy because in this time where we felt like nothing new could happen and everything felt like the same, we were able to create something that we're just so proud of. Yeah. And that like, you know, really brought us closer together, and like we were like there for each other, like in the pandemic.
We were there.
We like really like honestly, like I really needed you in the pandemic.
I know.
And so I just so appreciate like you being there and like us being able to share this and so many other things. So like,
and it's like a time capsule of what it's like, you know, we talked about when we got vaccinated and things like that. It's like really a time capsule of what's gone down this year. It's very interesting.
And also just thanks everyone for coming along for the journey, whether you're like a casual listener or you just like wait for with bated breath every other Tuesday. I don't know, but like, you know, we're really happy wherever you are, however you're listening, that you're here with us, that you're interested in what we have to say, that you enjoy, you know, being with us. Like, it's great.
Yeah,
thank you so much.
Thank you so much, truly, and we do hope you stick around. We're planning to do this for the foreseeable future. We're not planning to stop anytime soon, and I really do think it's like a pretty great feat that we made it a year. I think a lot of people started podcasts during the pandemic, and you know, life happens, and a lot of people fall off of doing that, and I've seen it happen, and I've seen podcasts start and end, and I'm just really proud of us, actually, for like keeping this up and like keeping the upload schedule and doing it, and just being in that rhythm is what has saved us. Like, we've never gotten out of that rhythm. And so thank you all so much, like Cass said, for sticking with us and listening. And we hope you've enjoyed this ep of this time down memory lane. We really do.
Yeah, we have a long list of future topics that we are very, very excited to get into in this next year of Rare with Flair.
Yeah, year 2, everybody. Going
for
into year 2.
Happen.
Our sophomore year. Year of the pod. Love it. All right. Thank you, everyone. We love you. Bye. Bye.